One thing that I really learned from the documentary, and that I'd love for you to speak on, is just your, consistent throughout your life, your battle with Tourette syndrome. You were diagnosed at 17 years old, but you dealt with it your whole life. And when you go back and watch some of those games where you're scoring 30 or scoring 50, it's almost like the defender isn't there. And what you talked about in the documentary is that even when you're in an open gym, when it's 1-on-0 for you and you're in practice, you're going against Tourette syndrome, and Tourette syndrome is not going to let you leave the gym until you don't make 10, but you make 10 perfectly. So when I go back and watch those, it really is like there is nobody in front of you and you are just hitting combos and rising and firing. Can you just speak on, dealing with Tourette syndrome, but also on the flip side, how Tourette syndrome molded you into one of the best scorers and shooters ever?
Without Tourette syndrome, I wouldn't be the player that I became. Up after outwards, but it made me come back and say, no, I got to do it this way. It's got to sound and look this way. If it doesn't, I have to stay out here, because if you leave before finishing, then I'm gonna make your day miserable. I'm gonna heighten these ticks, and so you couldn't leave without feeling like you perfected that. And it wasn't enough just to make the shot. It was also how you made it. Like if it said to you, no, it's got to be swishes, they got to be swishes, all of them. If it had to go off the glass and go in from different angles, it had to go off the glass and go all swish, right? It had to hit the rim and come back to you each time, right? And it had to be every time it had to come back to you, or you have to do it again. So it took you to the level of not just being happy with making them, but precision shooting. Even with the dribbles, if you mess up, you got to do it again, over and over again. If you did it right, you had to do it to the left. So definitely, man, definitely. I would have never been the player that I became without it, for sure.
I mean, it's just incredible. And like I said, you go back and you watch, and it's clear that, that's a different level of attention to detail and focus. So I'll be running those highlights for the fans so they can see for themselves, but it's pretty much something like we've never seen before. I mean, my favorite part of of this season for you is that when you look at the guards that made the Western Conference All-Star team this season, 96, it was Gary Payton, John Stockton, and Jason Kidd. When you go back and look at your games against Gary Payton, John Stockton, and Jason Kidd, you hang 51 on Stockton, you hang 38 on Kidd, and you hang, or 39 on Kidd, sorry, and then 28 on Payton. Is there like a heightened sense of, people think that these are the all-stars, but I think it's that. I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, in that every game is maybe the same, but is there a little chip on your shoulder like, hey, I'm doing this against them, like this is me?
Let me just say this. Every game, look, it sounds good in theory. Generally speaking, when you come out, your mindset is to be dominant. That's your intentions. It doesn't always work out that way. Your mindset is to be dominant every time you step on the floor. You want to be the best one out there. However, we're human. When you know that you're playing against a Michael Jordan, a Gary Payton, and they've got that label behind them, you can't help it. It automatically, lifts the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they're not considered normal dudes. And I was at the stage, man, too, a part of it, because systems matter. I'd gotten in great shape. My wind was different. My explosion, my speed increased, but also an important factor was they left me alone. Right? They weren't trying to police me as much, and that makes a difference when you got a guy that can get it off the dribble. He can come off screens. He can come off, pick and rolls and get his own shot. And sometimes the worst thing a coach can do, or anybody can do, is put you in handcuffs, which oftentimes happens a lot. And so there were periods in Denver when they didn't have the handcuffs on. You know what I mean? And that's when it's like it's a whole nother ball game. I just wish that they would do it all the time. You know what I mean? But it didn't happen because when we played, and as opposed to now, most of everything, no matter if the big man was great or not great, things going through the big man.
Right.
right? You running the system through that. Nowadays, shoot, man, if you got a two guard, he's the dude. You going through the two guard. If you got Jordan, you going through Jordan. But it was just a different league back then.